Hi, I'm Stu from Hive Automation and welcome back to the Hive. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at this new Sensereo MS-1 Matter over Thread smoke alarm. As always, we'll take a look around the outside of the box, we'll get it out of the box, and then we'll get it set up in Apple Home. And in this case, being a Matter over Thread device, we're going to have a look at getting it into Home Assistant as well. So while I roll the intro, why don't you take a moment to subscribe? And if you hit the bell icon, you'll get notified when I release new videos. While you're at it, if you like what I do here and you want to support the channel, there's some affiliate links in the video description to smart home gadgets that you can buy for your very own smart home and support the channel at the same time. Or you can support the channel directly through my Buy Me a Coffee link. Those affiliate links and my Buy Me a Coffee link can all be found on my website as well, hivemindautomation.com.au. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. So a few weeks ago, the founder of a company I'd not heard of before, Sensereo, sent an email asking if I'd like to review their new MS-1 Matter over Thread smoke alarm. And of course, I said yes. I've been curious about smart home safety devices for quite a while, and I feel like a smoke alarm is a perfect place to get started with that. The MS-1 is EN 14604 certified for smoke detection in Europe, and it's TUV tested to ensure compliance with the highest safety standards. And I think it's important to note that the Sensereo MS-1 is also the world's very first Matter over Thread smoke alarm. It uses a photoelectric smoke sensing using infrared scatterings. It should also then be less prone to false alarms than an ionization smoke detector, with the added benefit of not having any radioactive material inside. One of my most favorite features of the MS-1 is that it has a dual power system with the included replaceable C123A 3-volt lithium battery, sometimes called half AA, and that powers the communications module for the Matter over Thread smart home connectivity. And there's also a non-replaceable internal battery, and that supports the core smoke detection function. Sensereo suggests that the lifespan of the MS-1 is 7 years, which admittedly is shorter than the recommendation that any smoke alarm be replaced every 10 years, but it's not that much less, so it shouldn't be too big of a bridge to cross. To pricing now, and in the interest of full disclosure, Sensereo were kind enough to send me this one at no cost to me, but as always, I won't let that get in the way of an honest review. Now, on the MS-1 website, it is priced at $80 Australian, and it is available to order now. I will be putting an affiliate link in the video description below if you're looking to pick one up for yourself. The unit that they've sent me is also a pre-order version, so the packaging may be slightly different from the full release version if you do decide to order one. For prerequisites, being a Matter over Thread device, you are going to need to have a Thread border router. And for HomeKit integration, it's important that your phone and your Home Hub device, whether that is a HomePod or an Apple TV, they need to be updated to an absolute minimum of iOS 18.4, as this is essential for the smoke alarm category to be available in Apple Home. So let's start by taking a quick look around the outside of the box.
The box itself is pretty plain, and I like that. It says a reasonably annoying smoke alarm, MS-1, and the Matter and Thread logos on the top. Then we have the Sensereo logo, Detect, Alert, Protect, Matters, and there's not a whole lot else that we can see until we move to this side here where we see MS-1 and Sensereo.com, and on this side we have compliance logos. Sliding the white sleeve off and we see a stylized Sensereo square there. And on this edge we have Matter Thread Smoke Alarm, Detect, Alert, Protect, and the Matter and Thread logos again. On this side we have some company details including the address, a hotline phone number and an email. And then over this side, we've got the TUV certification and the EU addresses.
Now let's take a look at what's inside the box.
I'll start by opening up the top flap, and straight away, once we get that open, we see we've got our warranty card, and it says we've got 7 years warranty, and there's a QR code to scan to register that. Then we've got the unit itself inside the recyclable and possibly biodegradable plastic bag here. And we'll pop that aside and we'll take a look at the smoke alarm. It's fairly minimal. There's an LED port there and a test and hush button. And it's just plain white. On the back, there's a switch for the main power. And then we see the Matter pairing code there. This here looks like a reset switch, but it's not actually linked to anything. And we can pull the Matter comms unit out and see the battery there, and that's how we would replace that battery when the time comes. I'll pop that back into the cradle there. Just looking here, and it looks like there's some reasonable tabs for me to put a mount plate on the back, and I'll take a quick look in the box. Now, for whatever reason, it seems like I don't have a mount plate here. Whether that is something that occurred during packing or just because this is a pre-order model, I'm not sure. It's no skin off my nose. I might actually look at designing a 3D printable version though. The build quality feels pretty good and the design is minimal.
So with the device out of the box, it's time to start getting it paired. Now, before we do get it paired into Apple Home, it is definitely worth mentioning that I had an absolute hell of a time getting the MS-1 paired into Apple Home, but it turns out that that is all to do with my Apple Home setup and nothing to do with the MS-1 at all. It took me several attempts to get it to pair, and on the third or fourth attempt, it did finally pair, but even then, as soon as it was done pairing, it appeared offline almost immediately. So I ended up removing it from Apple Home, resetting the MS-1, then I spent a good hour trying to re-pair it with absolutely no luck. Now, for a bit of backstory on that, I've been having a lot of issues with my Nanoleaf Matter over Thread lights for a little while now. After trying some of the troubleshooting outlined in the user manual on the website and also emailing back and forth with the founder, I figured that the problem was probably going to be my Apple Home, especially combined with those Nanoleaf Matter over Thread issues that I mentioned. So I started cleaning out all of the Matter over Thread accessories that were no longer communicating with Apple Home. I ran software updates on everything, and I made sure to restart my Apple HomePod, which is also acting as my home hub. And I was then able to successfully pair the MS-1 immediately, and it has stayed online perfectly since then. So now into the pairing process, and it is actually really quite straightforward.
So after removing the plastic tab protecting the battery, we'll open up Apple Home and tap the plus button in the top right hand corner and then add accessory. We'll scan the QR code with our phone and then tap add to home. This will take a couple of minutes to pair up to Apple Home. And in the background, it's connecting the device to the Thread network, etc. When it has finished pairing, we'll get prompted to add the device into a room. And in this case, I'm going to choose my office. With office selected, we can tap continue, and then we can change the name of it if we like. I added Sensereo into the front of the name. This is the first time I successfully got it paired, by the way. I ended up resetting it later and not adding this. And then we have smoke detectors added to the Hive, and we can tap done. So with the smoke detector paired, we can then tap done. And in order to see it, we're going to need to tap on the ellipsis in the top right-hand corner and then select the office because that's the room that we put it in. In the top right, you'll see smoke sensor there. And if we tap on that, we'll be able to see some of the accessory settings for the device itself. Now, there's not a whole lot in here. We've got the name, whether smoke is detected, the battery level at 99% in the room it's in, and if we tap add automation, we can then add an automation to trigger a scene in HomeKit when the smoke alarm starts detecting smoke. Under status and notifications, we can turn off activity notifications or suppress them during certain times of the day or when nobody's home, etc. And we can also see here that we're not able to disable include in home summaries because it is an alarm. This being a Matter device, we can see connected services here, and if we drill in there, we can see the different Matter fabrics it's connected to. I recorded this during the edit, so that's why there's 3 there. Further down, we can see the details for the manufacturer, the serial number, the model, and the firmware. And lastly, we have turn on pairing mode and remove accessory. When I tap turn on pairing mode, we get presented with the setup code and we can copy that code to the clipboard.
Now there's really very little to see in Apple Home, so I want to try it out in Home Assistant. So we'll head over there and do that now.
So in my demo instance of Home Assistant, I'm going to go to Settings and then Devices and Services, and then click Add Integration. And then I'll click Add Matter Device. I'll tap Yes, it's already in use, and then select Apple Home. Now here is where I need to paste in the setup code that I just copied from HomeKit. So I'll paste that in here and then click Add Device, and this is going to take a couple of minutes to pair the device into Home Assistant. When it finishes pairing, we'll be presented with the details of the device. We can see the sensors. There's contamination here, and that shows as normal. And we've got our history and our logbook. There's smoke, which is showing as clear. Again, the history and the logbook there. We've got configuration, and the firmware shows as up to date. And then sensitivity is interesting because we see we've got a menu and there's 3 settings. There's low, there's standard, and there's high. Further down, we have diagnostic details. We've got the battery at 99%, and we've got the battery alert is normal. Battery type is interesting because it says the battery does not need to be, and I assume changed is the missing word there. MS1 end of service is okay, hardware fault is okay, but I did notice during testing that when the power switch on the back of the device is off, that shows a fault. MS1 muted shows as on, and I assume if it's sounding an alarm, that will be different. Test in progress shows not running, and voltage shows 2.999 volts. Now that test in progress sensor, if I go and press the test button on the device, it changes to running. And obviously when the test stops, it shows as not running. Now the great news with all of these sensors is we should be able to use the state of them as triggers, and they also all get logged in the logbook here. So we can see when different things change on the device there.
So that is the Sensereo MS-1 Matter over Thread smoke alarm. Now, while at 80 Australian dollars, it's certainly more cost than your run-of-the-mill dumb smoke alarm or even an individual node in a multi-pack of interconnected smoke alarms. However, it was a really pleasant surprise to see how much additional control and data we have over the unit inside Home Assistant compared to inside Apple Home, although that is a big part of why I got into Home Assistant in the first place. Now, being able to use the MS-1 to trigger automations in different circumstances inside Home Assistant does mean that we could reasonably add an automation to flash the lights on and off, make some very loud announcements over the smart speakers throughout the house, and also send critical push notifications to our smartphones to really make sure that everyone in and out of the house is aware of a possible emergency so that appropriate action can be taken. And I think that this is great because having that connectivity, especially if you are not home, does mean that you can take appropriate actions to protect either kids or pets that may still be at home. So in my opinion, the addition of smart connectivity does mean that we have a far better chance of saving precious time in the event of emergency with notifications to our smartphone and creating automations to really assault the sensors. And I do think that that makes the MS-1 worth the additional cost of the device. Now, combined with the shorter 7-year lifespan compared to 10 years for a regular dumb smoke alarm, it does mean that you have to spend more money ever so slightly more frequently. However, if it only saves you once within that 7-year lifespan, again, I think that that extra cost is well and truly worth it. Like seriously, it works out to $11.43 per year plus batteries to own one of these devices if it only lives to that 7-year lifespan. So it really is cheap peace of mind. Now, in terms of some things I'd love to see with this, I'd like to see a way to interconnect multiple MS-1s that are on the same thread network to then allow them all to sound even if only one has been triggered. They'd all be on the same thread network, so I don't see why they couldn't all be linked. I might even raise that as a feature request with Sensereo. I'd also like a way to manually trigger the siren to use as part of a combined home alarm system, potentially with different patterns for different problems. I know that the smoke alarm sound does need to be a particular pattern, but if you could have secondary patterns, say for security or a flood sensor, then that could be really useful in a smart home scenario, and means that the one device could then be a siren for multiple use cases. I have actually already raised that feature request with the founder of Sensereo, and he seemed quite receptive. So here's hoping that becomes a reality in a future firmware or hardware update. All in all, I'm really impressed by the Sensereo MS-1, and I think it's a great addition not only to my smart home, I think it's a great addition to any smart home. There's a really good chance I'm going to be buying more of these with my own money to replace the old dumb smoke alarms that I have in the house. And it's actually quite timely because they are all coming up due for replacement around about now. I want to say a huge thank you to Sensereo for sending me the MS-1 to review. I found them really responsive to my questions, my support inquiries, and my suggestions, and I definitely got a sense that they're only too happy to help. I'm looking forward to them doing really well and releasing more clever gadgets like the MS-1 smoke alarm, and hopefully working with them again in the future. Do be sure to check out their website and use my link if you want to get an MS-1 smoke alarm for your own smart home. As always though, let me know your thoughts on the Sensereo MS-1 in the comments section down below. That's all we have for this video, and I do hope that it's helped you in your home automation journey. Be sure to drop a comment below with a home automation idea that you'd like to see me cover in a future video. And don't forget to follow HiveMind Automation on Instagram and Facebook. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button down below to give it a like. And if you're not already subscribed, please consider changing that now. While you're at it, if you hit the bell icon, you'll get a notification when I release new videos. Lastly, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to help to support the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description. Any contribution you make through Buy Me a Coffee does get put towards making more and hopefully better content for you to enjoy. Don't forget to check out my website, hivemindautomation.com.au. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.